On this episode of Game Shack, I'm going to talk all about arcade machines that become orphans. In other words, they stop making them and they will never be made again. All that and more coming up next. Hey everybody, welcome on back into the Game Shack. I'm your host, JDV for Evil Genius Entertainment. Thank you for stopping by. We really do appreciate it. Give us a thumbs up on the way out the door. It really does help the channel. Okay, so it was right around Black Friday when I heard that Frogger went on sale for $199 over at Lowe's, and I apparently had just missed it by a couple hours. And I have been going back to Lowe's website ever since to try to see if I could score that cab. And yesterday when I went there, I found out that no, I won't be able to because it is no longer available, no longer going to be sold at Lowe's. Now, part of the reason why I've been looking for that cab so much is that it's my wife's favorite game, or one of her favorite games, and anything that I can do to bring her into the old Game Shack is something that I want to try to do, you know, to get her out here and play games and have a good time with me out here. So I've started looking around every other place that I could look at, including some very obscure places like Office Depot. And lo and behold, none of them had it for sale. In fact, as far as I can tell, Frogger is no longer available from any retail outlet at all. And I checked, well, all the usual suspects, plus a whole bunch more. Now, of course, you could probably find this eventually on Facebook, although it's not on Facebook where I live, or Craigslist or something like that. But the reality is if you want a Frogger game from now on, moving forward, you're going to have to pick it up from someplace like eBay or Facebook, because Arcade1up no longer makes the cab at all, and all of the existing supplies of it appear to be gone forever. Which got me thinking about other orphan cabs and about the idea of sort of when you should jump in on a cab that you like that perhaps is maybe priced a little too high. And specifically, I'm thinking about like games like Burger Time, a really, really good looking cab that they never made again that I would like to see reissued. Now, while Frogger is not a great looking cab and only had, I think, 3 games on it, it's still a really big title, and they did make it. And, you know, it'd be, personally, I would like to see it, of course, because I know my wife likes it. But then I started thinking, well, what about games like Star Wars and Tron? Now, we know that Star Wars had the big re-release this year. In fact, that's probably one of the most exciting cabs that did come out in this year, is that re-release, because so many people did want to have that cab. And that got me thinking about other cabs that are for sale right now, but have remained at a very high price. And specifically, I'm thinking about Star Wars and Tron. Now, Star Wars, of course, had that big re-release this year. In fact, it arguably is one of the biggest releases of 2023 because so many people did want to have that cab, and it did have a nice little graphic upgrade and the coin doors on it, and it always was one of the slickest looking cabs that Arcade1up put out. But it has stayed pretty consistent at $5.99. Yeah, Wayfarer's had it, I think, for $5.29 for a half second or two. I know Tron has dropped down in price a couple of times, but basically that has been a $6.99 cab the whole time. And those are 2 cabs that personally I really want to have in this arcade, but not at that price point. It's very hard for me to spend any more than $300 on a normal Arcade1up cab. And you know, I don't really want to spend any more than $450 on even a specialty cab like Tron or Star Wars. But this experience with Frogger has maybe told me that I need to shift my thinking a little bit, because while they probably will keep making Star Wars, and or they made so many of this re-release in 2023 that I don't need to worry about that for a while. But Tron's a different story. Now, the other night I was over at the Cornercade, you know, with Danny and his wife, and I asked everybody there, you know, in the chat, whether or not that they thought Arcade1up was still making Tron games, and the universal response was, no, they're not still making those Tron games. Now, while that might not be true, maybe Arcade1up is still making them or could make them in the future, one of the things that occurred to me is that Arcade1up does not necessarily have the licensing for these titles for life. Particularly now that John D has left, like maybe their Capcom titles are in jeopardy, or some of the other relationships that he had that was able to lock down some of those licenses. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that there is that balancing act, right? Of whether they will keep making a cab that will be available at retailers for a reasonable price, or on the other hand, no, there's only so many of these cabs, and if you like that title, don't assume that they're going to keep making that title or that we'll see an XL. Like, we all assume that there's going to be a Star Wars XL cab, right? I think a lot of us are hoping for a Tron XL as well. But there's no guarantee that that happens. Until we actually see the cab announced and for sale, it hasn't happened yet. And so that's kind of putting pressure on me right now, thinking, oh man, next time I see Star Wars for even 20 bucks off, I'm probably going to have to jump on it because, again, there are no guarantees in this hobby that the cab you want is going to be there when you really want it. All right, so let me know down below what you guys think. Do you think they're still making Tron? Do you think they'll keep making Star Wars into 2024 and that is a title that will be available forever? Or no, once they sell out of the 5,000 or 10,000 units that they made, that's going to be it for Star Wars as well? Will they make some of these popular cabs like Star Wars and Tron in XL form factor, or no, just judging by the interest in Tron in the normal 3/4 scale form factor, probably not. What about lesser games like Burger Time and Frogger? Will we ever see those re-released at all? What about a game like Defender that really has never seen a proper release in terms of the control panel? Are we going to see a lower title like that ever re-released? Or is that Partycade the only version that you're ever going to be able to get? A Partycade, which by the way has skyrocketed in price on the used market. All right, let me know down below what you think. And I mean, I'm hoping I'm going to be able to find Frogger somewhere, but I'm guessing not. All right, until next time, guys, love each other, and I'll see you in the Game Shack. Mwah!
Be sure to visit evilgeniusentertainment.com for exclusive content, swag, casting call news, and much, much more.